Last year, a lot of people planted fruit trees, thinking this is the wholesome stuff, this is the safe stuff. And then they found out the hard way. Some fruits can cost you real money to keep in your yard. Not because they're bad in a moral way, but because they're either dangerous to eat, too risky for local agriculture, or so invasive they turn into a property problem. In a minute, I'll show you 5 fruits that keep showing up on restriction lists, and then I'll give you the simple grow instead swaps that still get you a harvest without the headaches. And here's the part most folks miss. Sometimes banned doesn't mean one single thing. Sometimes it's illegal to sell or plant in your state. Sometimes it's restricted to move across borders. And sometimes it's legal, but risky enough that it's not a smart family yard choice. Let's keep this calm and practical so you can plant with confidence. If you've been gardening a long time, you already know this truth. What looks harmless on a plant tag can behave very differently once it's in real soil. And for families, this matters because the yard is connected to everything. The air we breathe, the birds we hear in the morning, the food we carry into the kitchen. That's the whole idea behind Family Yard Kitchen. Simple steps that keep a home more steady. So today, we're doing 5 high-impact fruits. Not 15, not 100, just 5 that are either health hazards or invasive troublemakers, and that have caused enough concern that states, agencies, or property managers have had to get involved. One quick note before we start. Laws change, and they vary by state, so this is educational, not legal advice. If you're ever unsure, your local extension office is the safest place to verify what's allowed where you live. All right. Let's start with the one that can turn into a medical emergency fast. Picture a bright tropical fruit that looks almost cheerful. It splits open and inside you see glossy dark seeds, the kind of thing that looks like it belongs in a fruit salad photo. Ackee is famous for a reason. When it's prepared correctly and fully ripe, people enjoy it. But when it's not fully ripe, it can contain a toxin called hypoglycin A, and that's where the danger comes in. This isn't mild stomach upset. It can start with nausea and vomiting, and in serious cases, it can progress into confusion, seizures, coma. That's not the kind of risk most of us want sitting in a backyard where kids, guests, or grandkids might take a curious bite. And here's what makes it tricky for home growers. There isn't a simple, reliable home test that makes you feel truly sure. So the safest approach, especially for a family yard, is to treat ackee like something you admire from a distance, not something you experiment with in your own garden. Practical takeaway? If you ever see fresh ackee being sold casually or shipped in without clear safety information, slow down. The risk isn't worth the novelty fruit moment. Now, let's shift from danger to eat to danger to land, because the next one didn't become a problem in one dramatic afternoon. It became a problem the slow, expensive way. You've seen this one, even if you don't know the name. In early spring, it erupts in white flowers, almost like a cloud on a stick. For decades, it was planted as a neat, fast-growing ornamental tree. And that's the heartbreaking part. Many homeowners didn't choose trouble. They chose a tree that was widely sold, sometimes even encouraged. But calorie pear has a habit. It doesn't stay politely in one yard. Birds eat the small fruits, carry the seeds, and drop them along roadsides, fence rows, and woodland edges. And those seedlings grow up into dense, thorny thickets that crowd out native plants and make land hard to use. If you've ever tried to walk through an overgrown edge and felt like the branches were grabbing at your sleeves, that's what this can turn into. In some states, the response has been direct, restrictions on sale, planting, and even cultivation. And that means a tree that looked like just landscaping can suddenly become a replacement decision. So what do you do if you already have one? First, no shame. A lot of people inherited these trees or planted them years ago when they were everywhere. Second, don't rush into a risky removal if it's large. If you're considering taking it down, plan it like a project. Timing, safety, and what you'll replant. Because the best win here isn't just removing something, it's replacing it with a tree that gives you the same beauty without the long-term cost.
If you want a calm, simple checklist for how to check what your state restricts, subscribe and stick with us because we'll keep building practical guides like this step by step. All right, next is the kind of shrub that shows up where you least expect it, because the birds planted it for you.
Autumn olive is one of those plants that tricks people because it has good qualities. It grows fast, it tolerates tough conditions, it produces lots of little red berries. And yes, people will even say, hey, it's edible. But here's the problem. It doesn't just grow for you, it spreads for itself. Birds love those berries, and when birds love a berry, the whole landscape becomes a seed map. Fence line today, woodland edge next year, and then one day you look out and realize the understory has changed. And the damage isn't only that it takes up space. Autumn olive can alter the soil by adding nitrogen, changing the conditions that native plants are adapted to. So even after removal, the area doesn't always snap back into balance right away. This is why invasives feel so discouraging. You cut and clear, and land still needs healing. Practical takeaway? If you find autumn olive on your property, treat it like a long-term restoration project, not a weekend chore. Start by learning to identify it clearly, then plan removal in a safe way. Gloves, sleeves, eye protection, and follow it with replanting that shades out new seedlings and supports your local ecosystem again. And here's a simple family yard way to think about it. You're not just removing a shrub, you're protecting the future version of your yard, the one that's easier to maintain, easier to walk through, and friendlier to the birds and pollinators you actually want. If you'd like, we can do a full remove and replant walkthrough, what tools help, what timing matters, and what to plant afterward. So turn on notifications and you'll catch it when it comes out. Now let's talk about the one that feels like free jam, until it isn't. Himalayan blackberry is a perfect example of why edible doesn't always mean welcome. Because yes, those berries can be big. Yes, they can taste amazing. And yes, you'll hear people say, well, it's food, so how bad can it be? But the way it grows is the issue. It can form tall, tangled brambles with thick canes and serious thorns, the kind that make a property line feel like a barbed wire wall made of plants. And it doesn't take one wild week to become a problem. It takes a few seasons of ignoring it. Then, one day, you realize you've lost access to an area you used to mow. You can't reach the fence without getting scratched, and the bramble is creeping into places you never planted anything. Practical takeaway? If you're dealing with it, harvesting berries is fine, but harvesting is not control. Control usually means repeated cutting, digging out crowns where you can, and staying consistent so it doesn't rebound. And please, treat it like a safety job. Long sleeves, gloves you trust, eye protection, no rushing, no yanking bare-handed. Because the goal is a healthier yard, not a trip to urgent care. Now for the final fruit. This one isn't about invasiveness, it's about protecting the people you love. Starfruit looks like something you'd serve at a family brunch. Bright yellow, sweet tart, slice it and it makes a perfect little star. And for many people, it's fine. But for people with kidney disease or reduced kidney function, starfruit can be dangerous. There's a toxin involved that healthy kidneys may handle, but struggling kidneys may not clear well. And here's why I'm mentioning this on a family channel. A lot of adults, especially as we age, can have early kidney issues without obvious symptoms. So this is one of those know your household foods. Symptoms reported in serious cases can start with hiccups that won't stop, nausea, weakness, and can progress into confusion and even seizures in severe poisoning cases. That's not to scare you, only to say this fruit deserves respect. So if you or someone in your home has kidney disease, is on dialysis, or is under kidney care, avoid starfruit unless your medical team says otherwise. And if you're not sure, treat it like a special caution fruit, not an everyday snack. Because being family first means choosing foods that are safe for everyone at the table, not just most people. Alright, so what do we grow instead? Because we're not here just to remove and worry, we're here to plant better. Here are a few swaps that keep the spirit of backyard fruit alive without inviting the same problems. Instead of calorie pear, try serviceberry.
It gives you spring blossoms, it feeds wildlife, and you can harvest berries. Plus, it's a favorite native alternative recommendation in many places. Instead of wild, aggressive brambles, choose managed berries like trellised raspberries or a well-contained blackberry variety meant for gardens. The goal is fruit you can prune, not fruit that prunes you. And if you want a predictable, family-friendly harvest, blueberries are a classic, especially if your soil and climate support them. They're easy to protect with netting, they're easy to freeze, and they're simple to build into breakfasts. And if you want something a little special and native in many regions, look into pawpaw, where it's suited, an orchard-feel fruit without the same invasive reputation in many areas. And for a tough, hardy shrub that can be turned into syrups and jams, aronia, or chokeberry, is worth considering. And no matter what you plant, remember legal and recommended aren't always identical, so check local guidance, then plant with confidence. So here's the real message today. A safer yard isn't about fear. It's about choosing plants that match your values, healthy, manageable, and good neighbors to the land around you. If you found any of these, calorie pear seedlings, autumn olive along a fence line, or a blackberry wall creeping in, drop your state in the comments and tell me what you're seeing. I read them, and it helps everyone learn what's happening region by region. And if you're planning your next planting season, our book, Veggie Matchmakers, helps you pair crops in a simple, practical way so the garden stays productive without extra guesswork. And when you're ready, click on the next video, something calm and practical you can use right away in your own yard. I'll see you there.